What is going on YouTube? That time again. It's doubleheader with Amir Keenan and Keenan Costain. And I have something to ask for our audience. Where were you on November 24th, 2002? Well, the Lions, Bears, Packers, and Buccaneers can answer that. And you can find out in this episode. So here we are, episode 18, and balls November 24th, 2002. You know what you were doing on that day, Keenan?
Well, on that day, it was around Thanksgiving time, and I know that, but I was 4.5 years old at the time. I watching some childhood television, early 2000s, Sesame Street, Bear in the Big Blue House, uh, some cartoons, what have you, and playing on my computer, playing games on my computer. So that's what I was doing at that age.
For me, on this day, I turned 5. Then we had my birthday the day before, and I got a lot of time and stuff 'cause I was big into that show back then. And I do know when I looked up the box scores for all the games that day, I know the Panthers played at home, but no one in the Panthers uniform scored. They got shut out and hurt on by the Falcons. As for the Colts, they actually won on Sunday Night Football against the Broncos. And what's crazy enough, the Broncos have played on my birthday, including the day I was born. So I'm wondering if there's some divine intervention there. But we're going
No.
to talk about two games that notable games that took place on November 24th, 2002, starting one in Champaign, Illinois, involving the Bears and the Lions. And you might be familiar with some players on the Bears, say Brian Urlacher.
Unfortunately, Brian Urlacher does not ring a bell. Unfortunately.
Really, he's like he played from like 2000 to 2012.
Oh, wait a minute. Did he stay with Chicago the entire time, or did he get traded somewhere in the later years?
Now he played his entire career at the Bears.
That's right. Yeah, now it's coming back to me. So yeah, I'm running on about 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours of sleep here. So had a long weekend, a long Saturday rather, Friday and Saturday. But if you see me stumble throughout this presentation and throughout mine, you can blame sleep on that one. So
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of sleep, I know Lions fans they were losing a lot of sleep around this time, and Bears fans as well. So to start off, speaking of the Bears or the Bears, well, they had a very good 2001 season, 13-3, won NFC Central, hosted a playoff game, but it was a short one. They got lost by the Eagles 30-19. So moving on to 2002, high expectations, given that they won their division first time in over a decade and made the playoffs first time in 7 years. Going to build off of that. And first weeks of the season, they did that. Come around victory over the Vikings and the Falcons. But by November, they were on a 7-game losing streak.
uh, well, well, they started off great, but they but they ended off flat. I guess you could say. 7 game losing streak up to this point. So
Yeah, it didn't help their offense couldn't recapture the magic from last year with their come behind victories. Anthony Thomas took a step back. The receivers stepped up, doing more for their team trailing, but also Bears fans thought we heard this before. They couldn't find consistency at the quarterback position because they went from Jim Miller to Chris Chandler, and at this point, Chris Chandler's got the starting job, but he may not have it much longer after his performance on Monday night against the Rams, which was on paper supposed to be an entertaining game because Rams made the Super Bowl that previous season, but yeah, it was a Mark Boyd versus Chris Chandler matchup, and that was the most recent defeat, as the picture you see here. So next is a home game against the Detroit Lions, who are also not doing so hot. And yeah, it's let's say the Lions have come a long way from this where they are now.
yeah, they definitely improved for sure. They had some up and down years throughout the 21st century. If you if you want to put it in those terms, because if you want to think about like in 2008, for example, weren't they 0-16?
Yep, and unfortunately, the seeds for that '08 season began in early 2001 when they hired Matt Millen. In the first season under his regime, they went 2-14, and things got a little better this year in 2002. They're 3-5 or 3-6 going into this game, but they've lost their last two games. The most recent to at a home loss to the Jets was 38-14. But one of the three wins came against the Bears in overtime, which was how do I put it, exciting and a little stressful on the heart for Lions fans. So heck, you know, I don't. We might get another entertaining game at Champaign, in Champaign, Illinois, because unfortunately the Bears Stadium, Soldier Field, was being renovated around this time.
Yeah, definitely. And before we continue, I just want to say, Amir, I do like the background you put in your presentation. I like it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the University of Illinois pulling the fine alumni. That's where and the Bears are playing for the 2002 season until Soldier Field was the renovations on Soldier Field were completed for 2003. Yeah,
Hmm.
so thank you.
Oh, yeah, I know people on Spotify can't see our presentation, so I thought I'd point that out before we proceed into the upcoming matchup.
Oh, definitely. So so here we are. Speaking of the upcoming matchup, is on the call. It's going to be Pat Summerall and Brian Baldinger for NFL on Fox.
Yeah, and we talked about Pat Summerall before, in a earlier episode. I can't remember which one, but yeah, Pat Summerall, welcome back, sir.
Yeah, he was doing a lot of regional games at this time. See, after the '01 season, he stepped down from doing the number one announcing, doing the top rated game for the Fox and usually the late afternoon slate. That was now being taken over by familiar name, Troy Aikman and Joe Buck and Chris Collinsworth, who we will be touching on later on in this episode.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that, folks.
Oh yeah, and let's just say they had a lot. They saw a lot during their first year as a number one crew. But as for Pat, he's seen a lot of things as an announcer and player. And Brian Baldinger, and let's just say they're going to see something unusual in this game. So, got any
Hmm.
predictions for this?
Well, you said the word unusual, so keep that word in the back of your mind, or write it down on on a piece of paper or what have you. So,
Oh
um,
yeah.
for your question, any predictions? Um, let's say I'm gonna say it's gonna be 27 to 17. Final score. I think I'm gonna say the Lions pull this one out because, like you said, the Lions have been going through some growing pains lately and throughout the 21st century, and maybe they can turn things around as well.
Well, they are facing a slumping Bears team, so and they beat them in overtime in Detroit earlier in the season. So I would take the Lions as well.
Yeah, yeah. And for the Bears, maybe maybe it's time to go back to the drawing board once again. But you never know. It should be an entertaining story. So without further ado, let's go.
All right, you said it. So let's see here. We're going to pick up on the Lions' third possession of the first quarter. So they got forced three and out on defense, and they had the ball on their own 33-yard line. But just when it looks like they're about to score, this happens.
Russ Stewart comes back behind Harrington. Now he checks out. Harrington fires deep. This one's deflected and intercepted again by McQuarters. McQuarters to the 20. Out of bounds at about the Detroit 15.
Oh,
Hmm.
wow. The R.W. McQuarters, that we mentioned him in our Texas Stadium episode. And at this stage of his career, he was with the Bears. And earlier in this game, he actually had an interception that was overturned. But like for him, there was no need for a review on this one, and set up good position for his offense.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll put that in the card. I'll put a card in the upper right hand corner of your screen now of that episode. So boom.
Oh, yep. So boom. And speaking of boom, 6 plays later, the Bears cashed in.
Very underrated, but very good player. Second and goal. Chandler's foot now. He's going to throw it. He hits him. He just got rid of it. Marty Booker. Beg your pardon. Marcus Robinson.
Well, well, he said it. He just got rid of it just in the nick of time. I'm just paraphrasing what he explained. That being Pat Summerall. So
Yep. So yeah, it was a blitz, but Chandler was able to get it off in time and find Marcus Robinson from 3 yards out, or to get for the first points of the game. So put the Bears up 7-0 early in the second quarter, because as the quarter's interception occurred late in the first quarter, and that drive carried over into the second quarter. Got him settled that. That was 5 plays, 14 yards. And after that, not much scoring afterwards. I mean, the only score we got was a Jason Hanson 22-yard field goal to close out the scoring, so give the Bears a 7-3 halftime advantage. So, okay, it's a close game. Bears are used to that. That's how they were able to win. Originally, they won 13 games the year beforehand. But if you're the Lions, you're
well,
saying to yourself, could we feel like we're one play away from turning this game around?
yeah, you're right. It's not out of the ordinary express of the imagination here, but well, I did say 27-17 Detroit Lions. So if you're Chicago, you're looking for something to looking for something to convert.
Well, I mean, you got something to hang your hat on. You're leading at halftime, so that's a good
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, I meant to say Detroit. My bad. So I did have Detroit win this game, and but they're not out of it. They're only down by 3, so I still like their chances.
Yep. So it's still anybody's ball game. It's in 7-3 at halftime. So we'll go on to the second half. What do you know? And on the first possession, well, the Lions hit pay dirt.
Back to throw it. Roel. Touchdown. Lions finally get in.
Yes,
All
you're
right,
right about that, Pat.
all right. So it's 14-10 now, right? Because it's
10-7 Detroit.
10-7 Detroit now. Okay, so there we go. Like you said, find the end zone, and Pat, you said it best.
Oh yeah, and that was Jermaine Correll, who, by the way, was the intended receiver on the pass that was intercepted by R.W. McQuarters. But for here that capped off a 69-yard drive that lasted 15 plays, they gave Detroit a 10-7 lead midway through the third quarter. And when his defense, well, forced another 3-and-out, and it didn't take long for the Lions to find the end zone again.
This is Stewart. Breaking away from one tackle. First down. What an effort by Stewart. What an effort is right. Wow, touchdown.
Yeah,
Breakaway tackles for sure. And as far as I can hear, they so he did a good job missing those defenders there and found the end zone.
oh yeah, he broke 3 tackles on that play, and it found the end zone, which capped up another short drive for Detroit. Only 4 plays, 35 yards, and now they have a 10-point lead, and it's with 2:49 to go in the third quarter. So their prediction is, I'd say it's looking good, Keenan.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm liking this. So yeah, huh. Now I got the blood pumping a bit. A little exciting.
Oh yeah, for a Lions fan, defense been exciting. The last two drives, I mean, again, you have two drives in the second, third quarter, excuse me, both resulting, both are ending in the end zone, and you're up by 10. However, this Bears team has had a knack for coming from behind because remember, the two wins in this so far have been by one score 14-13 over Atlanta in week 2 and 27-20 on opening day against the Vikings. So if I'm Lions, wouldn't I'd be on my edge of my seat, wouldn't be on the edge of my seat, but wouldn't relax just yet.
That's an interesting statement for sure. So, I mean, Chicago, it's not going to go down without a fight. Like you said, I mean, with those scores that you mentioned. But if you're Detroit, it's not over until the fat lady sings.
Oh yeah. Speaking of not over, so the Lions had a chance to put this game away when Columba Edwards recovered a fumble for Ahmad Merritt early in the fourth quarter. However, they could not convert it because they were forced to punt, giving the Bears some life. So that which led to this.
Center of the field deep. Here's Miller. Oh, what a catch! It is White. Unbelievable. Touchdown, Chicago.
I had a tough time picking that out, so feel free to explain.
So yeah, so you're wondering, folks, you wondering, you thought there was a got misheard something there. That was Jim Miller. So in between during the Lions dominant third quarter during that stretch, Chris Chandler injured his ankle and was forced to come out of the game, and then reinstate Jim Miller into the lineup. And on that play, he just after they went 3-and-out Detroit, the Bears offense then went 12 plays and 91 yards, finished off the drive with the touchdown, Miller touchdown pass to Dez Wilson. Dez White was 23 yards out with 2:39 remaining in regulation. So yeah, we're fast forwarding in time here, folks. So now it's like we said before, to the fat lady sings, nothing's the final yet. So that it cuts the lead to 14-17 or 17-14 favor of Detroit with 2:39 remaining. But the Bears have all three of their timeouts and 2-minute warning. So you're the Lions, you gotta manage the clock pretty. Yeah, it's trying to manage that clock, as in run as much time off as you can, so the Bears don't get the ball back.
Yeah. So it's a fourth quarter now, just in case if anybody's wondering, and it is the fourth quarter, right?
Yes, late in the
Okay.
fourth quarter.
Late in the fourth quarter. So I just wanted to clarify that for anyone listening out there on Spotify. And so Amir, I think you put it back best. Detroit needs to put everything together here and not give Chicago a chance.
Oh, you're right about that, but unfortunately, Bears defense was able to keep the Lions in check, and the Lions only ran 32 seconds left off the clock. So, I mean, the Bears didn't have to use any or only used one timeout. And but by the time Lions would punt the ball, the 2-minute warning would have already passed. So, having said all that, Bears were able to get for about did face a 4th and 20, which seems to be the game appears to be all but lost, but familiar face came to save the day.
Find some miraculous way to complete this. It's a 4-7. Miller fell down, gets back up. Oh, he's got it too. He's got it. And he got it. Oh, my. And he got the first down. A miracle.
Miller,
Yes.
Miller at it again. What a recovery.
Yeah, and as Pat said it best, a miracle. See, stumble out of the snap, and then it's 4th and 20. It's pretty much all either completed, get convert, or incomplete and go home. But Mr. Des White came through again with another clutch catch.
Mm-hmm.
And that would set up the Paul Enninger game time field goal as time expired. So now we're heading to overtime in Champaign, Illinois.
Well, I did not had overtime on on my bingo card, Amir.
Yeah, nah, Lions fans didn't have the overtime on their bingo card either. It's what, especially with the fourth quarter.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again? I kind of lost you there.
Yeah, Lions fans did not did not see overtime coming either, given they had a 10-point lead entering the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Okay. All good. So we go into overtime now, all tied up on a Bears field goal chance or drive rather.
Yeah,
And
and
so
that drive
Amir,
was yeah, sorry about
uh,
that. And that was 43
go ahead.
yards. They traveled 43 yards in under 2 minutes to get in the field to set up that game time field goal. Excuse me.
Yep. So overtime. There's, I mean, the rules of overtime has definitely changed a bit.
Oh yeah, and Bears fans turned back the clock to 2001, say the game against the Browns and the 49ers a year ago. But either way, you know how it goes in overtime. Visiting team gets the call the coin, so I'll let you call it, Keenan. Call as it plays in the air.
Heads.
Okay. Well, it is tails, but either way, would you like to receive or kick off?
I like to receive.
All right, good choice. Okay, the Bears, excuse me, the Lions win the toss, but they were like to kick.
Really? You think the Bears would receive
I mean, the Lions won the toss, but the
Lions?
Bears were
Excuse me, the
involved. Yeah,
Lions. Yeah, not the
you see
Bears.
how
We
confusing this got, right? Well,
Yeah.
speaking of confusion, let's just say Marty Morningweg's explanation, what everyone, including the Bears announcers, at a loss of words.
The win is the reason. I don't care if you don't give up the ball.
Yeah, if you didn't hear that correct, clearly it was reason is the win, and he says I don't care, you don't give up the ball, and I'm like, yeah, because Marty, your team's at 3 wins and you've lost your last 2 games. Yeah, talking about you, sir. I hope this gamble doesn't backfire.
Well, uh, let's keep our fingers and toes crossed here.
Oh, I know the people, Lions fans across the, especially ones in Detroit, are have their fingers and toes crossed. They're like, oh man, here we go again.
Mm. Well, without further ado, Amir, I don't like the looks of this already, but yep.
I
Well,
I don't blame you. Yeah, I think Lions fans don't blame who watch this in real time don't blame you. So here we go. We're gonna pick up that drive in overtime. If I can find the notes for it. I had them right here. Here we go. So yeah, the Lions. I mean, Bears get the ball. They mark mark down the field, looking pretty good until a third down. To third down, Miller pass is incomplete, but they get called for holding. Mr. Mike Gandy. Excuse me, this pass intended for Mr. This guy right here. His name's Mr. Book, not Booker. Your name will come to me eventually. Yeah, this he was called for holding Mr. Gandy. So the Lions can either do one or two things: accept it, now force a third and 18, or decline and force a fourth down, and force the Bears to punt. Well, Martin Morway decides to roll the dice again. Say, you know what? Let's force a third down and 18. They're not going to convert that, right?
uh, if I were the coach, I would have just taken the fourth down and be on my merry way.
Oh man, you will be right about that because my memory serves right. Didn't the Bears convert a 4th and 20? I don't know, a few moments ago.
Uh, yeah. I suppose so. So I see this audio clip up top here, and let's see what this audio clip has to say.
Well, there we go.
Here's Miller. There's White again. Who else? They got the first.
Yep, Mr. Des White. Man, you're coming up big today, sir.
Wow, Mr. White at it again, and Miller, you know, getting it done as well. So good conversion if you're Chicago.
But yeah, if you're a Lions, that's oh boy. I know you're sweating in your seat right now, saying, "Why did you just? You could have just taken the accepted the penalty, Marty, and
Yep.
also you could
The,
have gotten the ball instead of playing. I'm hoping Mother Nature would come in, would play in your favor, but they didn't want. As for Mr. White, he would have 8 receptions for a buck 06 in the touchdown, with 56 of those yards coming on 3rd and 4th and long. How about that?
wow, that's quite the stat. And that's really hard to do, and in today's NFL as well.
Yes, it is. And also, I should add that this is the overtime was so 15 minutes long compared to the 10 minutes we have now. And the guy I was trying to mention before, 89, was Mr. Dustin Lyman, that guy who caught the pass that was initially negated to Mike Gandy's holding call. But anyway, so getting back to this, so they get that play with that would set up put the Bears in field goal range, and then 3 plays later, they get to Edinger's range, and let's just say he was Marty. Time to eat your own words. Take it away, Bears radio announcers.
He has Coils, delivers the kick, and Miller in. Fighting the win. It is gone. And the Bears have won in overtime.
Oh yeah, Bears win in overtime. Paul Edinger from 43 yards out, and set by Leon Johnson's 3 runs after Des White's reception. And the game's end. Bears, your 7-game losing streak is over. And Mr. Morningweg, your seat is getting pretty warm in Detroit.
Well, we talked about some seats being warmed in our regular double header weekly pick that we usually do on Wednesdays. But yeah, more on that later. But um, yeah, very warm indeed, Mr. The Lions head coach indeed.
Yeah, and as this graphic that showed up here, the gamble backfires. It backfired horribly.
Hmm. Yeah, so I mean, my prediction was looking good up until that field goal and regulation. So
Yeah, well, I don't feel bad. I know Lions. A lot of Lions fans' predictions were feeling good until the last 2 minutes and 39 seconds of the fourth quarter, and Martin White pretty much sealed their fate by saying, "Heck, I'm going to take. I'll let my defense bail me out." And soon they gave up, I don't know, 10 unanswered points in the last 2 minutes 39 seconds.
oh man, that's rough. That's really rough.
Yeah, and not only that, they allowed a fourth and they allowed the Bears to score on a 4th and 20 and 3rd and 18. The latter of which they could have declined and said, "Hey, she allowed them to punt."
Yep, I even said, why aren't you punting the ball, guys? Why aren't you punting the ball?
Yeah, oh, Lions fans were asking, had a lot of questions lined from Mr. Morningweg after this, and Mr. Coach Morningweg had his explanation, take the win, it's winning in Chicago, which I get the logic, but he could have said had the Lions facing the wind or with the wind behind them, not facing them. You
Hmm.
can coin toss. You can like tell which way you want to kick and everything. I'm not trying to
Yeah,
defend Marty, but it's just well, in the fencing a little bit. By the way, I think he got those mixed up somehow, some way, and it came at to bite him. And oh yeah, by season's end, yeah, he got fired.
Yeah, not surprised. For Detroit, and after after a call like that, or a game like that, I would have done the same thing, and I would say this game right here has a big say in that matter.
Oh, it did. Because after this game, the Lions didn't win any more. Went winless rest of the year, finished year 3-13, and got all but sealed. And Marty was not getting being brought back for 2003. He only won 5 games in 2 seasons with the Lions, and because they went 2-14 a year before that. As for the Bears, they win another game after this, but then they finished year 4-12. So yeah, not much to hang their hat on in Chicago either.
No, a lot of you stinks for sure from both sides at the end of the season, especially for you, Detroit. So
Well, especially for Marty Morningwork for that. That is his management in the last 2 minutes of the game and that coin toss debacle and that accepting the penalty.
yeah. Well, that's gotta be it for your story, right? Because overtime's done. We talked about the players and coaches. So I mean, what
Well,
else can you say, right?
well, there is one thing. So the year before that, the Bears and Lions were in the playing the NFC Central because again there was no back in 2001 there's no NFC North and NFC South until the following season. Well, guess who happened to be in their division at that time in 2001? That is.
Um, Was it the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
You are correct. This way, wait, my dad. Yep, Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in that division, and now they're in the new. And now they're a year later. They're in the familiar NFC South, where they're in first place. But in our next segment, we're about to face a familiar foe called the Green Bay Packers, who just so happen to be in first place as well. And while this would be about for top seed in NFC playoffs, there will be another some players will have some player and the coach will have some exclaims due to depressing fans at game's end. So stay tuned for that, folks.
You're listening to Double Header. Be sure to like and subscribe. Alrighty, welcome back, folks. So, like you said, we have the Packers and Buccaneers 2002 NFC South, team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you got the Green Bay Packers on the left and Tampa Bay Buccaneers logo on the right. So, Amir, you know, come 2002, what took place between, these two teams leading up to this game?
Well, both were in first place in their divisions. New England line, Packers in the North, Buccaneers in NFC South, but also rekindled their rivalry from their days in NFC Central, which I know it seems hard to believe. It's in Bucks playing Florida, Packers in Wisconsin, but in glad realignment took place. And also, Brett Favre and Warren Sapp get to meet again because they had their teams battled out in the late 90s, early 2000s, and they have choice awards in between that. So,
It's funny because I think I texted you this last week. It was some sort of Brett Favre stat or a picture or something, and I remember saying like, "Oh man, Brett Favre does not get the respect he deserves, in my opinion." And here we are talking about Brett Favre today.
yeah, because I know, Brett's been doing some. I know he made the news not too long ago due to his Parkinson's disease, and I know he played a long time in the NFL, and he's also had some controversy, but we won't go into that. But there always some controversy involved in this game. but anywho, let's see here. I do know he's entering another House of Horror, that being the new current umbrella, that being Raymond James Stadium. 'Cause he also struggled there, Texas Stadium, and the Metrodome. Hopefully, he can maybe right, get his first win at Raymond James Stadium, because it's been open at this point 5 years.
Yeah. So since 1997, if I'm doing my math right,
Hmm.
and yeah. Well, speaking of Raymond James Stadium, boom, pregame note. So you know, took place on a Sunday, November 24th, 2002. The time of this game was 4:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Location: Raymond James Stadium, Tampa Bay, Florida. Attendance for this game was 65,672. 12 television distributor was Fox Sports, and hey, Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, kind of like what we brought, you know, during our first story, for a preview. So there they are, on the right hand side of your screen.
Yep.
So a few facts. hmm
Yeah, good to
And
see you again, Joe and Troy, and Chris Collinsworth as well. He calls it
yeah,
game.
and yep. I did not give Chris Collinsworth his flowers, but I'm gonna give his flowers here right now. And I I bet he had a few interesting things to say during this game, and this was before the NBC, you know, NBC Chris Collinsworth with Al Michaels and what's the other guy's name that doesn't now?
Mike Tirico.
Tirico,
Yes.
Tirico, yeah. And so some fun facts: the Buccaneers were coming off a win against the NFC South rivals, the Panthers, 23-10, clinching their eighth win of the season. Packers, on the other hand, however, are coming off a loss against the Minnesota Vikings, 31-21. Vikings currently on a two-game losing streak. So, Amir, looking at these facts at the bottom of your screen here, pretty interesting going in.
Yeah, and it is. And again, I know about Raymond James Stadium opened in 1998, excuse me, but either way, yeah, but getting back to the Packers, I know they were they were not only sole possession of first place in the NFC North at the time, but they had a 5 game lead over everybody, over the Bears, Lions, and Vikings, who had a combined total at the time of this kickoff 9 wins. Because again, the Lions Bears played earlier that day, so basically with a win here, they can clinch the NFC North. As for the Bucks, yeah, they faced the Panthers team, who I don't know got to a very good start, but then they lost their next 8 games, including the one they lost earlier today at home against the Falcons. And as for this game, 4:15 on Fox. Again, two of the top teams in the NFC at the time, and then Joe and Troy and Chris are now taking over the number 1 spot, pleased held by Pat and John, because John is now with ABC and Pat's doing more of the regional games for Fox.
Yeah, and we briefly discussed about him in our last story of this episode. Um, yeah, I would say that's a good segue to go into kickoff. So without further ado, boom. Or rather, excuse me, we have the quarterback to talk about: Brad Johnson and Brett Favre, and head coach John Gruden for Tampa Bay, and head coach Mike Sherman for Green Bay.
Yep. So, and also that same with Battle of the Bays, Tampa versus Green Bay. And I know this was John Gruden's first year as Tampa Bay's head coach. They moved on to Tony Dungy after they another one and done outing in the playoffs. As for Mike Sherman, this is his 3rd year with the Packers, and he led them to a 12-4 mark previous year. Which wasn't enough to win the NFC Central because the Bears won it. But either way, it's going to be McKinley and 2 old rivals from the NFC Central, and it should be a good one.
Should be. So, any predictions before we jump right into today's matchup?
Well, the Bucks defense has been what I read is on a historic pace. They're number one going into this game, and all yeah, Brett Favre, he has not had he Raymond Stadium's been in his new house of horrors because again, yeah, he struggled in the Metrodome. Case in point, last week against the Vikings, and also wins at Texas Stadium and brought them up twice in this episode. So that being said, I say the Buccaneers are going to pick up Favre 4 times in this game and win it. I say 28-7.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on this one. 28-7. Brett Favre, you know, um, as a good of a quarterback he is, everyone has their off days. Brett Favre's not gonna have a good stat line at the end of this. So that's my prediction there.
I would
So,
agree.
yep, kickoff. Almond Green left tackle for 2 yards. Derek Brown on the stop. Derek Brooks rather on the stop, and Sheldon Curdles. Donald Driver, tight end for the Buccaneers, or wide receiver. Was he a wide receiver or tight end?
Wide receiver.
Wide receiver. That's what I figured. Right end for 16 yards, tackled by John Lynch and Derek Brooks. Brooks being out, so already, Green Bay off to a rough start, and as you see, or we'll get to him in a second, rather. So Brad Johnson pass complete to Ken Dingler for 5 yards, tackled by Dial Diggs and Hardy Nickerson,
Hmm.
and then right out the and then when this picture of Johnson going down, uh, Brad Johnson leave the had to leave the game, and Rob Johnson had to take over.
Yeah. So what you can't see here, folks. So this is on and this game is actually is available on YouTube on 3 channels actually. During that pass to Ken Dilger, Niall Diggs is helm or glove made contact with Brian Johnson's left eye, and it caused some irritation for a while. Hence why he had to leave the game, and then being Rob Johnson in relation to being really for Brad.
Yeah. So Rob Johnson into the game for Brad. So that's a good analysis, Amir. Appreciate that. So pass complete to Mike Ostap for 8 yards. And then Rob Johnson pass incomplete, intercepted by Keon Johnson, or intended for Keon Johnson, is intercepted by Nia Diggs at the Green Bay 26, return for 29 yards. Penalty on Tampa, unnecessary roughness for 15 yards. And think, um, I don't think I have audio clip here, folks, but so if I did, I apologize. So anyway, fast forward, Brett Favre pass to complete the Bubba Franks for 11 yards, tackled by Derek Brooks. Brett Favre again, complete to William Henderson for 9 yards, tackled by John Lynch. And then Brett Favre to Donald Driver for 4 yards, touchdown. And here is the call from Mr. Joe Buck.
Corner of the end zone, Driver. Touchdown. Ninth straight season with 20 or more touchdown passes. That's second most all time. Dan Marino had 10.
Well, Joe Buck brought up an interesting stat about Dan Marino. Having 10, and then Brett Favre, surpassing that record, right?
Yeah, he would eventually surpass that, but yeah, 9 straight seasons with 20 plus touchdown passes. That was a second behind Dan Marino at the time, who was 3 years retired at this point. And of course,
Yep.
Brett Favre, good start to this game for him. That touchdown pass to Donald Driver, he could work on that
Yeah,
turnover.
man. For sure. So Green Bay off to a good start, and we talked about Dan Marino before in a previous episode in our uh, draft class episode. So, boom, card in the upper right-hand corner of your screen.
And also in
So,
subject with that, we talked about Joe Buck in our Jack Buck episode because Jack was his father, so that's another card.
yep, and I'll put a note of that Joe Jack Buck episode. I'll write that down real fast before we continue. So there is the card right now.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so after no scoring throughout the second quarter, the defense was able to stand true for both sides, which consists of a lot of 3-and-outs between both sides. So Amir, both teams are shaky here, um, which is not really the best of terms. But fast forward a little bit, the field goal by Tampa Bay was able to take a make it a 4-point lead for Green Bay, and here is the field goal try by Tampa.
And help the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get on the board, and the little man does.
So there you go, 7-3 halftime lead. So, anything else to say before we go into the second half?
Yeah, that was the field goal by Martin Gramatica from 38 yards out, and it's crazy. It was 7-3 in my store at halftime between the Bears and Lions.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's funny that you bring that up because you know, I should do this, and this is me saying this, that I should do more research on your story a little bit more, just to have a general idea. But it's also fun to not have much information about about the story, for the person presenting. So just a just a quick thought on
Oh
my
yeah,
end. But anywho, 7-3 right now for Green Bay. So let's see. Green Bay has a lead. Tampa Bay's looking to cut into that lead. So second half, oh gosh, for Graham Ramada, if I'm saying that right, connects on a second field goal. This time from 51 yards out.
Gramatica.
Grammatica. There we go. And then after that, Brian Kelly picks up Favre. The pass was intended for Harry Glenn, who was not expecting the ball at all. Uh, so Brett Favre with this, I believe, his first interception of the ball game.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's correct.
So Sapp. So fast forward a little bit. So Sapp plays out for Chad Clifton during the return. Clifton injured his pelvic bone on the play, ending the season. So this is still during the third quarter. A tough blow for sure.
Yeah, and yeah, we're gonna definitely take note of that. 'Cause, it was on during that return, Kelly's return. If you saw that play in the upper left hand corner, you can see Warren Sapp lay out Chad Clifton, and then before they resumed play, they had the cart Clifton off the field, and that would did not sit well with Packers coach Mike Sherman.
Yeah. So if you're Green Bay, that's a tough loss for sure. So um, fast forward here for Joe Javarius, scores from 18 yards out, 4 plays after the Kelly interception. The play was reviewed a touchdown, and he was able to get both feet in bounds, and Brad and Keyshawn connected on the Onson 2-point conversion to make it a 7-point game. So this audio clip is a little bit longer than others, so I'll let Joe Buck and team take it away.
To run the football with this group of personnel. Second down and goal. Johnson fires. Juravicius. Incomplete. And Ty Williams with his hands up in the air, celebrating after a rough week in Minneapolis 7 days ago.
Well, he just runs out of real estate right here. Joe Juravicius has a chance.
Oh.
It doesn't look like he gets the left foot down, however, once he makes the grab. Had he have been able to drag that left foot, it would have been a touchdown. You see here, his right foot's in, but his left foot never dragged.
I don't know. See this little spot, if we could back it up just a little bit. Watch this little bit of turf come out of this toe. If I can get that out of the way. That spot right there, that looks to me like maybe he did the toe tap.
Now from Johnny Greer.
After reviewing the play, the receiver gained control of the ball in the air. His right foot hit down. He dodged the eye with the left foot. Maintained possession when he hit the ground. We have a touchdown.
This is to make it a 7-point lead. Johnson.
Man, just to hear the roar of that crowd, man, gotta love it. And I'm thinking back to earlier this week during my internship, just to hear the roar of the crowd at the football game yesterday that I worked, and also the basketball game I worked this week as well, just to hear the roar of the crowd. Like, oh, it was loud. It made my ears hurt a little bit, but just to hear the ecstatic the ecstatic from the crowd, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and then it's you're right, because you can just the crowd's like saying it's a touch because they can see the play on the jumbotron, so like, come on, it's a touchdown. And even Chris Collinsworth corrected Troy Aikman saying that he got 2 feet down, that being Joe Jurabishus. I know that's a unique name, by the way, to pronounce and read. Anywho, but yeah, and when I saw the replay, I'm like, Troy, no, he got 2 feet in, and Chris was right. And sure enough, they reviewed it. Johnny Greer gave that long explanation, but afterwards, you heard the roar of the crowd and heard me say, fire those cannons. It was a touchdown.
Yeah, and there's one thing I forgot to mention in our pregame notes. I do like the fact rather, they do have some sort like a cannon, because their logo is a skull crossbone, so like a pirates themed logo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So I do like
fired.
that.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm finished.
Yeah, and whenever of course, Bucks fans and opponents of them know whenever you get inside the 20 or score a touchdown or field goal, the cannons go off.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I know they're rivals to the Carolina Panthers and stuff like that, and it's cool just to see, you know, something like that, just to get the crowd fired up. But and all in good fun for sure. If you're Tampa Bay. So, anywho, let's get back into this matchup here. So a far pass intended for Glenn was intercepted again. This time by Ronnie Barber. The Packers had nine uh, traveled 9 plays and 53 yards to the Bucs 22-yard line. Buccaneers went 3-and-out on their ensuing possession, and Favre once again, being intercepted once again for the second time this game. And if you're Green Bay, you got to say to yourself, "Come on, Brett. Yeah, I know you got it somewhere."
Yeah, I also got to saying that to Terry Glenn, who's been in the intended target on both these interceptions. Because first one, he wasn't even looking for the ball.
Right, and the second one was a little a little off target, and that's not good for sure. So Dexter Jackson again picks up Favre and takes it 58 yards to the Packers 2-yard line. So Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, what do you got? Oh, sorry, folks.
Coming in. Favre guns it. Another interception. Third of the day. It's Jackson. Dexter Jackson with a chance. Dexter Jackson with Sapp in front of him. driven out of bounds, and a late hit as Favre made the tackle.
Yep, and as you can hear in that audio clip there, the cannons went off again, and good job by Brett Favre for making that tackle for stopping the the possibility for a pick six.
Oh yeah, 'cause he threw one the year before against Tampa, which Sheldon Quarles, who you brought up earlier in the previous slide, he took that 100 yards the other way. And as for this interception, maybe people can't see or haven't seen this game. During that return, Sapp was, he was actually celebrating a little bit towards the end of Jackson's return. And could have maybe another extra block that could have led to a pick six, but that really didn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So 3 plays later, Brad connects. The Tampa Bay offense is back out there. So 3 plays later, Brad connects with tight end Kevin Dingler and Kelly excuse me. Well, with Tampa Bay wasn't weren't was not able to get some stuff figured out. And then Brett Favre has another chance, and it says, "Oh, Kelly picks off Favre again." So the second time Kelly picks off Favre took place at the 9-yard line of Tampa Bay, ending the Packers' drive of 11 plays, 7.
Another interception, the 4th of the game. Second for Kelly. And Favre has had a miserable day in Tampa.
You said it right. You put it right in the nail, Joe Buck.
Yeah, I wouldn't say miserable nightmare of a game.
Yeah, 'cause he threw 4 interceptions all in the second half, and then think about what 2 of them set up touchdowns, and 2 came with the Packers on the verge of the red zone. Because the last one came at the 9-yard line. That was like under 5 minutes left to go in the game.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't been keeping pace with the score, and I should have, but let's just say it didn't look too good for this game here. So let me see what was the final score
It
of
was
this game.
21-7 Tampa Bay. They're up like 21-7 at the time of Kelly's interception because Ken Dilger scored after Jackson's interception.
Right. Okay, I gotcha. Well, and let's just say it was too little, too late for Brett Favre to do anything else, and it's unfortunate, sure. But it seems like we have a little bit of a confrontation with Packers head coach Mike Truman with Sapp. Um, for Green Bay was not too pleased with Green Bay. So let's hear a little bit of the audio clip.
After the game, Warren Sapp actually was going over to extend his hands, thinking that he was going to be congratulated.
No, you know what you did. I tell you what, put a jersey on. You so tough, put a jersey on. Put a jersey on. You so tough, put a jersey on. You so tough, put a jersey on. I want some more games. I tell you what, the only one that's over limits is fall. You better go home. You better stay your ass home.
Well, Amir, feel free to explain because I bet you can explain this better than I can. Goodness, where to begin?
Well, to begin, we got to circle back to the first Favre interception, which during that return, Sapp, laid out Clifton, and unfortunately, he injured his pelvic bone on that play, and that put him out for the rest of the 2002 season. And of course, around this time, the Packers were doing a lot of injuries on the offensive line, and they couldn't afford to lose any more. Having said all that, that did not sit well with Mike Sherman because now he's lost another player to injury on a play that looked, man, it didn't look bad from what we saw, but from his perspective, that was a bad blocks again, put not this player out of commission for the rest of the season and could have ended his career, could have ended his pelvic bone on that play. Of course, during the end of the game, when Saps, gets done being interviewed by Pam Oliver, Mike Sherman's walking past, expecting to say, hey, congratulations. And that did not happen because they had choice awards that was captured by Fox cameras. And at one point, they had to insert the censor bar because there was a lot of cussing involved.
Yeah. It's not really professional if you're that guy. Like I'm really nothing else to say on that matter. But I'm kind of lost for words because you're supposed to. I get it. I get the fact that you can be upset, sure, but at least try to be professional, right?
Yeah, and then and this is from the ESPN highlights. They had a meeting met with Sherman and Sapp separately, and Sherman was still upset what had happened. Because again, one of his players got hurt, and one of the reporters asked him like, they want to know what Sapp said to him, and Sherman says, "I don't want to get into that," something around those lines. And they cut to Sapp. He's now being interviewed by separate members of the press, and he's telling them like, they do all this low blocking and stuff on him, and then no one makes a fuss out of it. And he does it, and then it's like all heck breaks loose. So you can see both sides of their argument and frustrations. Just like, okay, you did it to my player and what have you, and it was if you're a Buccaneers fan, it was a bittersweet night, and for the Packers, it was like another forgettable day in Tampa.
Well, an unforgettable day. Let's go ahead and review the player stats. So, Brad Johnson for Tampa Bay, who took over for Rob Johnson, or was it Rob? I see. I'm getting those names mixed up again.
Yeah, 'cause they share the same last name. So Brad started the game but had to leave briefly, and then Rob came in for a series, and after that, Brad took the rest of the snaps.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense because he has a bigger stat line than Rob does. So that's a no brainer. So 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions, 0 sacks. 30 39 was the longest, not his interception. Wait, that's not right, folks. So it's my mistake there. I wish I caught that sooner. But I digress. So good job for Brad Johnson of going coming back in.
Definitely.
Rob Johnson, 3 for 5, 33 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, 2 sacks on the day, 14 yards, 16 was the longest, and the rating was 40.0. Michael Pittman, 13 attempts, 50 yards, 0 touchdowns, 19 was the longest, 2 targets, 2 receptions, and for 23 yards. So, Amir, looking at these three players, what stands out to you?
Well, I mean, it wasn't like a big day offensively, and that was part of the reason why things did not work out towards the end of Tony Dungy's tenure in Tampa and why they lost their 1-0 in the playoffs the last 2 seasons against the Eagles. But either way, they were able to when they needed to get points for them, they got it. They were able to get them both touchdown passes after interceptions. And on that note, defense for the Bucks at a historic pace. Got it done again with 4 interceptions, 2 by Brian Kelly, who had a also, I remember they mentioned during his telecast that he had that was like his 6th interception in the last 4 or 5 games. I think Troy Aikman pointed that out. So yeah, another big day defensively for the Bucks, who after the Donald Driver touchdown, they shut down the Packers.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Couldn't say it better myself. And as for Green Bay, ooh, we all know about those 4 interceptions, but take a look at this, folks. 20 for 38 for Brett Favre, 196, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, 3 sacks, 25 yards, 30 was the longest pass of the day, and 36.6 rating. Ouch. I just wanted to skim through that because those don't look good, folks.
Oh no, it didn't. And keep in mind, there's also battle for the top seed in the NFC, and we're now heading to Thanksgiving weekend 2002, and the Packers now lost 2 straight games, and now at the worst possible time. Whereas Tampa, you've now won your last 4 games in a row since Marvin lost to Philly a month prior. So when was on Tampa's side, and Warren Sapp said himself in the post game interview before his conversation with Mike Sherman, you might have to come through Tampa to get to to the Super Bowl. And he hit on nail with that one.
Yeah, she certainly did. And taking a look at Green Bay's schedule going forward, uh, or we'll get to that here in a second, rather. So, Bubba Franks was 5 receiving, 4 yards, 29 yards was 29 yards, 0 touchdown, and the longest of the day with 11. Donald Driver with 1 attempt, 16 yards, 0 touchdowns, or one touchdown. I don't know why that's a zero.
Well, he had a receiving touchdown. That's why.
Oh, receiving. That's right. Yep, that's right. 10 targets, 3 receptions, 32 yards, 1 touchdown. There it is, and the 14 was the longest of the day. So, Amir, uh, Packers side, what do you think?
Well, Packers side, it's just and it not much, actually nothing to hang your hat on. I mean, he lost a player for the season, fired another horrible game in Tampa, lost 2 straight. I mean, the only thing you have to say now is just hope we just got to win out our games and hope Tampa loses one between now and the last week of the regular season. Or 2 games, excuse me.
Well, looking at the Chicago's upcoming games, uh, for 2002, they won against Chicago, they won against Minnesota, they won against the 49ers, and they won against the Buffalo Bills, and they lost to the Jets. Ooh, 42-17 for the week 17 matchup.
Yeah, and that game against the Jets, that ultimately denied them a chance to get home field, and they ended up playing on wild card weekend. And as for the Bucks, they would only lose one more game afterwards, which took place the following week against the Saints. After that, they won the remaining games, and they clinched the 2 seed, and as Bill got the number 1 seed. Then they would first on the Niners, upset the Eagles, and then win it all in Super Bowl 37 against the Raiders, and his former team.
Yeah, well, it's starting off to look great after that Tampa Bay loss, and once it got towards the end of week 17, and all momentum was dead in the water, and as for the playoff game, wild card, they had to face the Falcons, who uh, who looked really good at this time, putting up a score of 27-7.
Yeah, and I mentioned it earlier. The Packers were doing a lot of injuries around that time, especially in the offensive line. And then towards the end, they lost a few more players, and that's part of the reason why had the momentum just came to a halt, and why they were 1-0 in the playoffs that year. But so that was a very tough season, end of the season for them. So I even heard that Brett Favre was in consideration for MVP, but of course losing that last game killed those chances. As for Tampa Bay again, I mentioned for historic defense, and in Collins eventually rolled that to a Super Bowl, which they won. And so yeah, and also one more note on my slide. It's kind of similar how both the 2 winning teams had quarterbacks come in. I might add Chris Chandler and Jim Miller. They combined for where Miller went 21 35 for 250, whereas Chandler passed 111 yards. They had 361 combined and 2 touchdown passes in their game. Something to point out there. But either way, and also the Packers would end up clinching their division the following week. But again, end of the day, it didn't really matter because they were one and done, whereas Tampa Bay won it all in San Diego at the end of the season.
Yeah. So unforeseen circumstance for Green Bay. And, so with that, you know, I always like to ask this question right before we sign off from here. Is there any similarities or any differences between the two stories?
Well, Glenning, again, halftime was 7-3, and then, and in both games involved the coaches, coming under media scrutiny. I mean, Mike Sherman, how he handled the Warren Sapp thing, and Warren Sapp, how he came under practice. He had some controversy throughout his career, and then going back to the game at 1 o'clock, which they touched base on early in the game because it was a double header. That's the name of our podcast. Marty Morningweg had that. Oh man, he had a long 5 days because the Lions played on Thanksgiving after that coin toss debacle. Because then win the toss, he received the ball, but he decided I'm gonna put my defense back on the field, and that didn't work out. And Lions fans were cussing and screaming at their radio and TV sets after that.
Yeah.
Much their hat on that this time.
Mm-hmm. So that's a good analogy. That's a good analysis, and I like it. So, yeah, that'll be the end of my story. I did say earlier in the show that, or I did say earlier in the show to you guys, I did want to do a Brett Favre story, and yet here we are today covering Brett Favre. But we did cover Brett Favre, and had a great time doing it. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it comes down to championships, and he only won one. The Buccaneers only won one at that point with that historic defense. But I'm like, well, one's better than nothing. But having said all that, yeah, we finally covered the Brett Favre story. Well, sort of involved Brett Favre, rather, just more Warren Sapp, Mike Sherman. And both the Sherman Sapp debacle and the Marty Morningweg debacle occurred on my 5th birthday. Of course, young NFL. I didn't know what the NFL was at that time, but when I first saw the dates for these stories, I was like, we got to discuss that one day. And sure enough, here we are.
Yeah, and it's November 17th as of this recording. It'll be up. It'll be up later this week, right before your birthday coming up, Amir.
Yep, it'll be next week. So also reason why I wanted to do this because again, it ended November 24th falls on a Sunday this year as it did in 2002, and I figured what better time to do it. And also next week, shave this off because I always go a month without shaving between the 24th of October and the 24th of November.
So you always keep the stash.
Yeah, I go a month without shaving between the 24th of October and my birthday.
Gotcha. Oh, I miss a little bit of that. But I was able to get that taken care of, and I need to I prefer to be clean shaven, but hey, I'm liking the beard a little bit, so I might keep mine, but but yeah, that's all we got today, folks. So without further ado, this has been Doubleheader with Amir Keenan. And if you like what you see, feel free to give us a like, subscribe down below, and like us on Spotify at Doubleheader Podcast, on Instagram, Doubleheader97, and I'll put our Wix websites down in the description box down below if you want to check those out. And without further ado, as always, my name is Keenan Costain. He is Amir Daniels, and we'll catch you guys next time. Have a great week, folks. See ya.
See ya.